Hi, I'm Brianna. I'm a student at the City University of New York, where I study art and political science at Hunter College. I'm also an activist on campus, and some of my colleagues have asked me to put together an analysis of the coronavirus as it relates to our university's response. So in this video, I have 4 main objectives, and I put all of this information in a video outline that is linked in the description box. Feel free to follow along. Goal number 1 is to establish the severity of the coronavirus pandemic. Goal number 2 is to lay out a timeline for our university's response. My third goal is to explain the 5 demands that activists are putting forward. Goal number 4 is to provide you with concrete next steps that you can take starting today. Okay. So goal number 1, establish the severity of coronavirus. What has really stood out to me has been a study conducted by the Imperial College that was published on March 16th. Using epidemic modeling software, these scientists ran simulations and determined if we had done nothing to respond to COVID-19, this virus would have killed 4 million Americans and 90 million people worldwide. The scientists also ran tests on 2 different options that can be used to address this pandemic. Option 1 is a mitigation strategy. The goal of a mitigation strategy is to slow the spread of the virus in order to protect people that are most likely to either die from being infected or developing very serious health complications. A mitigation strategy can be used to avoid overwhelming hospitals and other care facilities that right now in America are running out of life-saving medical supplies. Even with a mitigation strategy in place, the simulation showed that COVID-19 would still cause millions and millions of deaths. The second strategy that can be used is a suppression strategy. The goal of a suppression strategy is to bring the death count down to thousands instead of millions of casualties. A suppression strategy follows strict social distancing protocols in order to create the desired effect. What happened at the City University of New York in response to the coronavirus? To my knowledge, the first message that we received at Hunter College about COVID-19 was on March 9th. The president of our college, Jennifer Rabb, sent out an email saying that Cuny was going to remain open until further notice. This already is a delayed response in comparison to other universities. Students were noticing that at private universities across New York City, these other colleges were taking more drastic measures to protect their facilities and their students, their workers, their professors. All of that was happening at other schools. Cuny, on the other hand, sent us emails telling us to wash our hands and don't touch anything. So the response that Cuny had initially showed a complete failure of leadership and an inability to grasp what is really at stake. Already, even before the coronavirus hit America, we were having really serious issues with underfunding of our colleges at the state level. Cuny is a public school, and for that reason, we have historically not received adequate support. So, as you can imagine, this created pandemonium on social media. And students started making memes to criticize the administration of our university for essentially putting students in risk of being infected and then infecting the rest of New York City. So these memes really for our university's standards, they went viral. In addition to these memes, someone created an online petition titled, what was it titled? Where is it? I'm looking at my notes. Are y'all following along? Okay. It was called Save the Students. So a student at Cuny created a petition in order to protect people from COVID-19. This petition ended up receiving over 100,000 signatures. Thousands and thousands of these signatures were collected in the first 3 days. The amount of public pressure that students were able to coordinate led to a complete 360. On March 11th, we received a follow-up from the president of Hunter College reporting that there would be a CUNY-wide instructional recess. In this instructional recess, classes were going to be moved online. However, what also was happening at the same time was a failure on behalf of the administration to provide protection to the staff of our university. So the PSC published an article on March 18th. PSC is the Professional Staff Congress, our professors' labor union. They explained in an article titled, "Tell Your College President to Stop Putting Us in Danger." Even though students were not forced to come onto campus during the instructional recess, there were still people at Cuny that were coming in to work. These people were expected to come in and act like business as usual. So now we're going to go into the 5 demands that activists have put together in a petition. Please take a moment to find that link in the description box and sign this petition. Share it with your friends and your professors. It's really important that we take this moment to advocate for ourselves in order to execute some real positive change for our community. Now, please keep in mind that this petition was created by at least a dozen people that got together to express these concerns and values. So what I'm doing in this video is going through my interpretation of the petition. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, and I'm just explaining this petition in the way that I've interpreted it. I've also signed it twice, so I agree with every point. A call for emergency funding from the city, state, and federal government. In conjunction with this call for emergency funding, we are also proposing a billionaire tax in order to pay for these things. If you go on Twitter and look up the hashtag #MakeBillionairesPay, there are ample voices there that you can tune into demanding that the wealthiest people in the world pay their fair share to create a better support system for our society. If there's anything that COVID-19 has revealed in plain terms, is the fact that we do not have social safety nets at all in the healthcare industry, in the educational systems, in the service industry. The reason why this is the first demand is because we want to acknowledge the demands that we are putting forward are expensive. And we recognize that the money we need in order to make this a reality is currently being spent by industries that really do not need to be bailed out by the government. In this outline, I linked some articles that helped me make sense of the $1.5 trillion federal intervention that was executed on March 12th. I recommend you read that because it is a little complicated. It's not like there was $1.5 trillion sitting in some vault and that money was then liquidated by the stock market. It's not how it works, but I do think that it's really important to notice what are the priorities of this economy and what are the priorities of our government. That support needs to go to working class students. That support needs to go to the public universities and the public educational system that right now is taking a critical hit. On a national level, we are witnessing a lack of transparency when it comes to the decision making that's happening in politics. There are many private sector industries that are currently looking for financial support from the government. This includes the airline industry, the retail industry, Uber, Hollywood, even the cruise ships are right now asking the government to bail them out. Many of the companies that are currently claiming to be under financial distress, these same companies that are now asking for government handouts, received millions of dollars in tax breaks over the past 4 years. So all of these industries have CEOs and corporate heads that make millions of dollars every year on top of bonuses and other perks that they benefit from. And so they need to reassess their priorities. The stimulus bill in the Senate is being characterized as a slush fund for billionaires that are looking to capitalize on this moment of instability. Right now, our university is in a state of emergency and the government needs to step in and provide the things that we are asking for. First of all, we need to be demanding more funding. If you ask, you shall receive. If you demand, it will come faster, because that is the reality of being an activist on campus. You have to put yourself out there and you have to be passionate about the things you care about in order to get results. These issues, when it comes to financial mismanagement, lack of accountability, lack of leadership, all of these issues that we're seeing on a national level, those same problems are present at Cuny. If you have any confidence in the integrity of this university, please check out this video of Councilwoman Inez Barron shaming Cuny officials earlier this month.
The total is $292 million in our budget request on the operating budget, $15 million of which we will self-fund through efficiencies. That brings the total request that we're seeking down to $277 million. And of that, we're seeking $126 million from the state, $77 million from the city, and the rest would come from tuition and fee increases.
So I'm very disturbed that CUNY continues to burden students with increasing tuition for public education. It's my belief that all of CUNY should be free. And we've moved away from that. And the trend that I've seen is that students are bearing more and more of the burden of the cost of education. So what is CUNY trying to do here?
No, we understand your concern, and we have the same concerns, and we take tuition increases very seriously. Having said that, though, we are definitely open in having discussions with both the Council Finance Committee and the council members and the Office of Management and Budget about providing more transparency and clarity about the budget. And we're happy to have those discussions with the administration and the council to provide as much transparency as needed.
So since we last asked about this, which I guess would be about a year ago, what meetings have taken place?
We've had no further discussions with the administration about this.
So that's disturbing for there not to have been any pursuit to address an issue which was brought to your attention a year ago.
The second demand of this petition states that all of CUNY should be allowed to learn and work remotely, and that the university should provide free resources to all in order to ensure that this is done without creating an undue burden to students, faculty, and workers. Embedded within this demand is the reasoning behind the A for All initiative that students are currently advocating for. There has been back and forth about whether or not to do A for All or to implement a pass-fail system. Now, my response to that is a pass-fail system is not adequate because, first of all, that still creates an opportunity for students to fail. That is not fair.
According to the most recent update by Cuny, we are now transitioning to an opt-in credit, no credit system. I also do not find this to be adequate.
We don't know what the next few months are going to look like. Students who might be doing really well right now academically and have fully transitioned into the online systems, those students, their lives could be turned upside down in a matter of weeks. What if you're a student that is living with your family and your grandmother gets sick and has to go to the hospital? Your mother could get sick, your father, your significant other, you could get sick. What are you going to do if you get sick and you can't focus on your studies because you have to go seek medical attention? Or someone in your family is counting on you because they got sick. This is a global pandemic. Students that are struggling right now to transition into online curriculums, those students should not be penalized. An A for All policy protects students that currently depend on their GPAs in order to maintain their scholarships, in order to maintain their visa status if they are from another country. These factors do not affect every student, but it affects some members of our community, and for that reason, a position of solidarity would include making sure that every student has access to a lenient grading system during this moment of emergency. When the A for All idea was first proposed to me, I was pretty skeptical. I wasn't sure if this was going to be the best approach. I shared concerns about whether or not this was going to satisfy accreditation standards. I was also worried about this impacting my eligibility for graduate school, and I think a lot of people share these concerns when it comes to considering a universal pass system for Cuny that implements an A grade for all students. But now, as things have escalated, I hope people are starting to realize how disruptive this virus has become. If there is ever a moment in modern history to give people a break, the time is right now. An A for All policy is the compassionate choice. And if you don't know how to be compassionate in a time of crisis, I don't know what to tell you. There isn't really much more in this video that I can say to explain to you why students should not be traumatized by the grading system. No matter what struggles you're having right now with your professor, if your professors are not communicating, if the curriculum has changed, if you're struggling with a learning disability, if you're having issues where you're living right now and you're not able to overcome that in this period of time, if you're dealing with mental health problems, if your family gets sick, if you have any of these factors in your life during this semester, there should not be a threat of failing in the back of your mind, creating anxiety for you. I just want to talk very quickly about the last 3 points altogether, and I'm going to list them here on the screen instead of reading them out loud. Their scope in vision is much larger. These final 3 demands have a similar feel to them because they are all radically ambitious. As I had mentioned earlier, the City University of New York has really serious problems when it comes to its finances, when it comes to its leadership, its lack of transparency, when it comes to its priorities. All of these problems were present before the coronavirus pandemic. I know so many people that were on the verge of losing it even before quarantine started. Right? There are people that are overwhelmed with debt, with other familial obligations, with having to work 2 jobs, with having to care for a young child. The reality is that CUNY students need far more support than what the school is providing us. And we deserve it. We deserve the things that are being expressed, manifested in this document. If you feel like tuition has gone up every year, that's because over the past decade, it essentially has. The most recent tuition increase happened in the fall 2019 semester to the sum of $320 per student per year. This petition is addressing that by saying, when all of this is over, I don't want to go back to the same CUNY. I don't want to go back to the way things were, where students are constantly entering into conflict with a racist institution. I don't want to go back to a university where the Board of Trustees sits on their high pedestal and continues to raise tuition and completely disregards the needs of students. I don't want to go back into a university where the president of my school prioritizes spending thousands and thousands of dollars on luxury catering for her private social events instead of using these resources to provide much needed support for hardworking students. I don't want to go back to that place. If you have ever experienced any difficulties in the financial aid department at Hunter or at any other CUNY campus, if you've ever experienced broken and neglected infrastructure at a CUNY campus, I hope you understand what I'm talking about. So with all of this in mind, I am urging you to sign this petition because it's actually possible to create a better structure for all of us. We have the time, the energy, the creativity, the intellect, the resources, the willpower, and right now, this moment of chaos is the optimal time to strike. Not literally strike, which honestly would be a great idea if our professors would strike. This is a reality check. This situation that we're in right now can be fixed, but it requires your due diligence and support. That is what this petition is trying to address. It's about thinking big picture. So the 5th demand of this petition is probably one of the most ambitious ones. We are calling for a full refund of the spring 2020 semester. That includes tuition, fees, dormitory expenses, meal plans, transportation. We are currently dealing with an educational system that we did not sign up for. And quite frankly, this online transition is failing. I received an email today. I wasn't going to include it. I already have so much going on in this video and I understand that. But I just want to bring to your attention really quick an email that was sent out by the chancellor at 3:38 p.m. today stating that we are currently in a recalibration period. What the hell does that mean? I don't know. But it's leading to all these unforeseen problems that the university is telling me with this email, they have no idea how to deal with it. Classes are now being discontinued again from March 27th through April 1st. Why? Well, because CUNY couldn't get it together in the first 2 weeks. They do not know what they're doing. This is the moment where students need to step up and advocate for the things that we need. What is also happening right now is that students that had been promised for the past 2 weeks that they would be able to stay in their dorms, those students are now being evicted from their housing at the last minute. So it was brought to my attention that the College of Staten Island kicked students out of their dorms, providing only a 1-day notice before implementing a mandatory evacuation of the dorms. Why did Cuny wait until after a shelter-in-place policy was implemented in the city of New York to now roll out this plan that destabilizes students and removes them from their housing situations that they were led to believe would be consistent throughout this entire period? This all could have been sorted out before the shelter-in-place policy. Instead, the Cuny administration went about this in the most underhanded and backstabbing way, and there is no accountability. If you are going through something like this, I'm here to tell you that what Cuny is doing is unacceptable. It is not okay to be doing this. This is severely disrupting the lives of students, and we had been told consistently for the past 2 weeks that this would not happen. I understand that we're in an emergency and we need to build makeshift hospitals to care for people because our government has failed to protect its citizens. I get that. We need to create alternative spaces where people can go for care. I understand that. But right now in New York City, there are hundreds of hotels that are sitting empty and could be used for these purposes. There is so much real estate in the private sector of New York that can be repurposed. It is so unfair and cruel for the governor of New York State, Andrew Cuomo, to demand that Cuny open up its campuses for this purpose when there are other spaces in New York that could be used that would not cause a disruption to the lives of working class people. Also, as an added insult, Cuomo has a track record for underfunding Cuny. Had people taken responsibility earlier on and actually prepared for this disaster, that didn't happen. So now students are the ones that are paying the price. Students at a public college that are now expected to go through the semester without a refund, without any kind of financial support, without access to resources, and without a mandatory pass system in place to ensure that we don't go insane. What the hell? This is so messed up. And I don't know what else I can put into this video to explain that to people. You either see it or you just don't care. There have been decades and decades of a small minority of activists on campus relentlessly trying to warn people about how vicious and poisonous this institution is to the minds and the health and the well-being of working class people. They're poisoning us. They're poisoning us with trauma, with anxiety. I know so many people that are struggling right now that don't know how they're going to pay their rent. This is the moment for Cuny to refund us in order to protect students who are currently on the verge of dropping out of college. By petitioning for this refund, we also set ourselves up to then move forward in the fight for a free and fully funded Cuny. On a national level, we have already won the ideological battle for a fully funded and free college education. That is the standard in over 24 countries across the world. It is historical fact that Cuny was free, tuition free, for over 129 years. Cuny did not start charging tuition until 1975. They blamed it on the financial crisis that was happening in New York City at that moment, but the reality is that it was a racist policy that was implemented once the demographics of our school became more diversified. That's the truth. And we have been at a disadvantage ever since. This is the moment to correct that, starting with a refund, starting with an A for All initiative, starting with all these protections that we need right now. We need the support, not just for ourselves, but for our families, the next generations of students that should not have to struggle and experience these kinds of abuses. We need to be thinking that far ahead right now. We need to open our minds and eyes up to a new world. That is what has to happen right now. Think back to the petition that got 100,000 signatures. That petition and the 100,000 people that signed it saved lives. Cuny was not going to close our campuses until the very last minute. They were not going to implement any of this stuff, and management, especially at Hunter College, was delusional enough to believe that we could get through the semester without having to implement any of these protections. That's what they wanted to achieve. And that petition and the 100,000 people that said, no, we have to prioritize our health and our sanity over the interests of the elite ruling class of this university. That's why you have to sign this new petition with new demands that are escalating the quality of our education. Step, test. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to cover in this video are concrete actions that you can take right now, starting today, in order to move forward with these goals of transformation. That is what we need. If you have not signed the new petition, please do that right now. I have also put together a Google Drive folder with daily updates and action items that includes sending out emails, social media blasts, making phone calls. All of this is essential in order for us to come out of this crisis in a better financial position than we are currently in. I want to thank all the people that have organized with me at Cuny and have taught me so much and have really built up my confidence and my resiliency. I really want to thank Free Cuny, which is the campaign that has been shaking things up at this university. And so I just want to be clear that it's not just me that's talking about this, right? I'm the one that's making YouTube videos about it, but this is a conversation that is gathering momentum. If you resonate with this video, connect with me. Do not just exit out of YouTube without a follow-up plan in place. That means signing up for my mailing list. That means going and checking out the video essay that I have put together over the past 8 months. It's still a work in progress. That I need your feedback on this. Everything that I'm working on is open to collaboration. You are invited to join us for a virtual town hall that's happening this Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. All of that information is on the Free Cuny social media pages. We're having the virtual town hall on Friday. Please join us for that. We're going to be checking in on social media with you all and answering your questions and pushing forward this visionary mindset that I really hope after watching this video, you are more receptive to and open to considering. I have so many ideas to share with you, and this is just the beginning. This is the moment to recognize how much your life would improve if the demands in this petition were achieved. And they can be achieved, and they will be achieved. We have a lot of power just at the click of a button. Sign up for my mailing list. I'm putting together an online book club so we can learn about these issues together. Come to our virtual town hall, sign the petition, and check out the Google Doc folder that I'm updating every single day with resources to get you through these times.